Let's see, is recording starting? Welcome
Yep.
everyone to the Flux Dev Meeting, March 20th. I think it's recording. Yeah, it says pause, stop
Yeah.
recording.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah, for me, the big news is that we got a booth at KubeCon, sponsored by CNCF. So have a Flux booth. Lots of maintainers will be there this time. Really sad Kintamio can't come, but Sanskar from India is coming, Tamao is coming, Mateus is coming, a lot of people. And also, I'm looking forward to meet Flux users. Flux is also participating this year at the Security Slam at KubeCon, and we need to create this kind of backlog of security features that we want to discuss there. Mateus, are you on the Security Slam in Slack?
No, it's like no. Is in the CNCF Slack?
Yes.
Let me
I have invited you.
just decide. Thanks.
And let me reply to Eddie. Okay, so I let Eddie know. We are going to, so I proposed to him one topic for the security slam to be the multi-tenancy workload identity RFC.
Nice.
So that's one thing we can discuss there. Hopefully, he will find some cloud experts for us to look at the at the RFC. But besides that, the security slam also has this goal of they'll run a scanner on the Flux2 repo that has a bunch of rules. Then based on that, we are going to create this kind of backlog. But this needs to happen before. So if you can talk to Eddie and schedule something, guess Monday would be good for both of us. Then I'm off to fly to London. He is US, so yeah.
My only meeting on Monday is with you, so yeah.
Yeah, so let's if you can chat a little bit with Eddie, figure out an hour for Monday so we can meet, and you should try to help him out. I'm guessing what the backlog will be something that we are going to write there on or have posters and stuff like that for KubeCon with all the tasks, but we need to figure out what that is, right? So we only have 2 hours, so we don't want to go there unprepared. So yeah, that's one thing around KubeCon. Another topic I wanted to bring out is around GitHub app authentication. I've seen you reviewed the pull request, right? Around
Yep.
in notification controller.
Yeah. I we've really close to getting this done. We had to iterate a few times on the structure of the code, but the last one is super simple. It's like just inlining two functions, and to me, it's really good. It's now fitting well the structure of the code, and I can test it, and then we can merge it.
Okay, so we are probably going to need so we need to document the flags,
Yeah, for the three
right?
controllers
Yeah.
in website.
So
OSDPT.
yeah, we can ask her. It's the same for all of them, right? It's the same flag.
Mhm.
What we really need to do is also add somewhere the metric on how people can monitor the cache size and all the other things.
Yeah.
So I think a good place will be in the let's see where it is, monitoring metrics. Oh yeah. So in monitoring metrics on the website, let me give you the link.
Green metrics. I see it.
Right, we have their cache event metrics. Do we have a different key for the token stuff, or it's under
It's
GOTK cache events?
GOTK token stuff.
Okay, so you need to add it here.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. GOTK token
Yes.
cache and other suffixes.
Okay, so that pull request that has the flag also has to add here the name of the metric and what labels we have. I'm guessing is namespace and
Cool.
something.
I'll open an
right?
issue. This is website repo, right? I'll open an
Yeah.
issue there.
Yeah. Other things that I want to bring up is
By the way, we already moved GitHub from package auth to package git.
yeah, I've seen it. And we have now this change in all controllers.
Yeah.
Cool. So the auth package now is ready for what we have in the RFC. So you can
Yeah.
modify the RFC now and
Yeah. And
modify
rename.
the package, rename the package name there.
Yep.
We also have some pull requests in the Flux 2 repo for the CLI. If you can look at the one that does the recursive dry run, it's a fix.
Okay.
I think that should be easy to review.
Yeah, it's like a very small amount of changes. I just didn't quite understand what it's happening there, but it's like on my side, I need to test that command. Like, I mean, it's just flux diff flux. No, let me see.
It's about build. So
Build.
people want to run build completely offline, which I understand. And it works okay if you have one Flux customization that applies things. But you can have a Flux customization that applies other Flux customizations, right? And
Mhm.
you want to uh, go recursively through all the child customizations, and this command allows you to tell where their sources are locally on the checkout, right? So basically you'll do a git checkout of all the sources locally in separate directories. Then you run Flux build customization. Here are all the other sources involved in the child customizations, right?
So
Which
the
is an
user has
advanced
to
use
check
case.
out on their own and then
Yeah, of
point
course.
point the CLI to those paths.
Yeah. It's the same procedure as running build for a customization, right? You need to check out the thing to run build. But maybe the things that are referenced by the child customizations are not the same repo, right? Like we have in like D1 architecture or other examples where you have an infra repo or an apps repo, right? So even
It
if
could
you
even
have
be an
those,
OCI repo, right?
yeah, I think I'm not sure if it works for OCI, but you could definitely do a Flux a pull and have the directory locally. So it
Yeah,
should work.
same as clone. Yeah.
It's the same stuff as clone, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
but you have it's a good thing you mentioned that we should make sure that this also works for OCI repo, not only Git repos, because it shouldn't matter. In the end, it's like it's something all the files are in the directory locally, and you have to point the CLI there. Piontech, are you still here? No. Okay.
But since it's recursive, how like would all because recursive in terms of customizations, right? That can deploy other customizations.
Yes.
So each
Yes,
one may
it
have a
looks.
different source and a different path. Like how are we able to pass the paths
Yeah,
for
look in the example in
recursively?
the help. You
Flux,
have minus
Flux tree
local
already does
sources.
recurse,
What?
right? But without the paths. Flux tree already does recurse, if I'm correct, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a great
Yeah,
feature.
but
Yeah, in the example here, Flux build artifact minus age here, I'm seeing in a few examples, but they have okay a path, one, but just one. How would this work recursively?
come on, look at the files change in the pull request. It's very obvious. Yeah.
I'm looking at it, but it's not so obvious to me.
So there is a minus local sources argument where you give the name of the source equals where is it on your disk.
Oh shit, I was looking at Flux build artifact. It's Flux build customization. Flux build customization.
Open the link I gave you.
Okay.
And this is working. This is a fix for the dry run mode. This is not a new feature. Recursive build is in there already.
So it's because without dry run, it actually talks to the cluster, and with dry run, it doesn't.
Yep. People want to do this build completely offline, right? And we were missing some checks.
Okay. Okay,
That's
anyway, I
the
understand
thing.
the context now. I can like go through all the details later. Don't worry.
Yeah, I mean but you should definitely try it for OCI repository because as you said, it should work. The fact that you say git repository this, it's here on my hard drive, it should work the same with OCI repository. It should be or bucket or whatever you have in there. It doesn't matter, right? Because the CLI will just take whatever is on the disk, check out or downloaded or whatever. So yeah, this one we could actually do a backport. If you review it and it's all okay and the code looks good, we should add the backport label to it because it's it's a fix
By the way,
for
talking about backporting a fix in the CLI, we have that bug fix from the new features from debug Helm release. I did a bug fix right after we released. I think it was after 2.5.1. Otherwise, we would have the fix already. We should backport that one as well, right?
I did it. That's
Oh, you
backported.
did? Oh, cool.
Yes. I'm talking about this PR, which is open. When you approve it, also add the label, right? And in case
Cool.
we do
Will do.
5.2, we'll have the debug fix and this one as well. That's what I'm trying to say.
Cool.
Yeah, another thing was the someone asks about I've seen you reply there, like adding GitHub app to the Get Started guide. We can't do any of that because all our guides are around start with Flux Bootstrap, then you do anything else, right? Including the Get Started. And we don't have support for Bootstrap for a GitHub app. And I'm
But
not
there's no
sure.
limitation, right? It's just not implemented. Once we do, then
Yeah, but I expect most people to give read-only access to the app on production clusters, while Bootstrap needs to push stuff. So you can't
Right.
actually bootstrap with a GitHub app, which is secure as read-only, because Bootstrap requires push. So I'm not sure that GitHub app makes sense when you start with Bootstrap. What you could actually do as a workaround, you bootstrap using your personal access token. You are a cluster admin, you are allowed to deploy Flux, you are also the owner of the Fleet repo. The Flux gets deployed on the cluster using your personal access token. Then we can have an instruction in the Bootstrap docs for GitHub. Hey, this is how you can, after the Bootstrap procedure is done, this is how you can move from your personal access token to the GitHub app, which has read-only access. And it's very similar to the documentation we currently have for rotating the personal access token. You delete the Flux system secret, then you're in the case of the path rotation, you run Flux create secret git with your personal access token. But this time you'll run Flux create secret GitHub app because we have a special command for that. So I'm not for adding anything to the Get Started guide. I'm for adding a section to GitHub Bootstrap page, migrate from path to GitHub app or something like that, where we tell people, hey, this is how you can do it. After you run Bootstrap, you can delete your personal access token from the cluster and replace it with the GitHub app stuff. But there is still a problem around the provider. Even if you create a secret with GitHub app, source control will fail, right?
You have to change the provider field.
Yeah. Now looking back, maybe it wasn't that smart of a decision to enforce the provider, right? We could look in the secret and automatically switch to it. But anyway, that instruction also has to tell people how to patch it. Then you're still not there, right? Because you can't patch it. If you patch it in the Flux customization overlay, so Flux is bootstrapped with the personal access token. Then in the customization.yaml, you'll set add by Kindon.
Right?
So you bootstrap with the personal access token. The URL is correct. It will be HTTPS. Then you need to go into you need to check out the repo. In the customization.yaml, you would write a patch to set the provider to GitHub. You commit that. It will get sync with the path. Then it will fail.
You
Because
try to sync
provider,
with the path and fail because of that. Right?
no, you don't change the secret, because if you change the secret, it will never take the patch. So first you need to write the patch. You add provider GitHub, you commit that. Flux will sync it because it does not have provider GitHub in the cluster. It will sync it with the path. Then you will have the Git repository with provider GitHub, and from that moment on, it will fail. The second reconciliation will no longer work.
Yeah, so first you will like pull the patch, update the Git repository object to have now the field provider, and then now when source controller tries to reconcile this, it will fail.
First time it will work. It will get from Git
Yeah,
the manifests. Then customize controller will modify the Git repository. That will trigger source controller second reconciliation, and the second reconciliation will fail,
it will fail. Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Got it. Mhm.
Then you need to make sure that on the cluster, if you do Flux export source Git Flux system, the provider is set to GitHub. Once that's in there in the cluster, then you can delete the path secret and recreate it with the GitHub app, and then it will work.
Mhm.
It's a little bit more complicated, but it can be done. We can actually move it.
Yeah. By the way, I don't remember now, but in the when using a path, which is when we don't set any providers, does our code, like does source controller check if it's GitHub, or does it use the path as some sort of generic way to talk to an HTTPS repository? Does it like look at the URL to see if it's GitHub or not? Or does it like, okay, I have a token, I have an HTTPS URL for a Git repository. If it's GitHub or not, it doesn't matter to me. I don't remember right now.
No, it has
It
nothing to do
doesn't.
with GitHub. No.
Yeah, it has absolutely no logic at all, like
Why would it?
with GitHub. Yeah. Why would it? Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to remember. So it's literally like if you had a different like GitLab, let's say, you could do the exact same thing if like with a Git HTTPS GitLab repo and path, right?
Yes, Gitea, everything, DevOps, doesn't matter, right? Because when you
And
put
in
the
the
username and password in the secret, what source controller does, it adds the password as basic auth on the HTTP request. Then GitHub, GitLab, whatever, know that, oh, if I'm receiving a password,
oh yeah, so we're basically like when we
the
bootstrap
token is
with
there.
yeah, when we bootstrap with path, we're basically using basic auth,
Yes,
right?
but we are not using basic auth, in fact, because these servers that GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, and so on, they don't look at the username, they look only at the password. Then they know in the password there is a token, because you can't log into GitHub using username and password. They don't allow that for a very long time. You can only do it through tokens, right? So it's like a convention using the basic auth where it's not in fact basic auth, you just send the token and it's token-based authentication.
But that's like transparent to our code, right?
Yeah. We see username and password, then we use basic auth. Then it's up to the server to figure out, oh, it's a token, get it from there, and so on.
There
So
could actually be some provider that is literally basic auth and requires a specific user, and that doesn't matter to us, right? Like we do. It's completely if there's a backend that does it like that, or that does it like the way GitHub does it, it's completely irrelevant to our code, right?
Yeah, and we do have a special check that Deepti added for GitHub, right? Where if the provider is generic and if the secret contains a GitHub app keys,
Yeah,
with
it gives you
where
a
can you
hint,
say,
right?
hey,
It says, hey, maybe you should use GitHub provider here.
but not the other way around. Like if you if you
Specify
set
provider
the
GitHub.
set provider GitHub and you have a path in there, it will say you need to have these keys. This is not the GitHub app auth
Secret. Mhm. Cool.
But anyway, you can actually migrate. The problem once you do this is that you can no longer run Bootstrap ever again.
Yeah, I was gonna ask I was gonna ask that question. How does another bootstrap would work? It wouldn't, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, maybe we should write a blog post on how to bootstrap Flux with Flux operator in GitHub app. And for people that are asking
Which you
about
can,
this
right?
point,
Flux operator with Flux operator, you can bootstrap with GitHub app, right?
yeah, because you create the secret on your own. There is no magic creating secrets, right?
Yeah.
So maybe we can do a blog post with some
But then you have
some
to put a
example.
patch in Flux operator for the provider GitHub. We don't have a field in the API, do we?
We do.
Oh, we do.
Yes, it was the first thing people requested after we released GitHub.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember an issue now. Yeah. True.
So, are you writing the blog post today?
I'll proofread it for you.
One, it should be simple.
Is that like a PR in the website repo?
Yeah.
Wait a minute, you said a blog post for bootstrapping?
With GitHub app, yeah. Flux operator and GitHub app.
But then that's in control plane stuff. No.
No, on the Flux website, blog post. Showing people,
okay.
hey, you can do this with Flux operator if you want to. We can't make it part of the Bootstrap official docs, but we can publish a blog post about it. Right? For example, when we released Flux operator for OpenShift, we published on the Flux blog post, hey, we have, if you want to get Flux for OpenShift, you can use the Flux operator listing for it because it's open source, it's free. Anyone can use it and you get Flux on OpenShift, which Bootstrap does not have. It's not, can't click a button in OpenShift and do Bootstrap, but with the operator you can, right? So we could definitely have a blog post, and then people that are asking like this user right now, like how can I do it with GitHub app? We say Flux Bootstrap, the CLI does not support it, but the alternative is you can use Flux operator and run the two commands beforehand, right? You just need to you run kubectl create namespace, then you run helm install with -- create namespace for Flux operator. That creates the namespace, deploys Flux operator in the Flux system namespace. Then you run the Flux create secret command, and then you apply a Flux instance, and that's it. Right, there are like 3 easy commands that you can run to do this.
Helm install, Flux create secret, and kubectl apply Flux instance.
Yeah, I have some docs around this that you can reuse. I pasted in the chat. And in the Flux operator website, there is also the installation guide, right? So it should be quite simple to put together 3 commands and show people how to do it.
Cool. Oh, yeah, we'll open a PR soon. Well, where are
don't
you
need to do
asking
it.
to?
You don't need to do it today when you have time. But I think
Yeah, okay.
it will help a lot of people
Yeah, I
that
was
want to
wondering if you were
migrate.
thinking about that for KubeCon or anything, or like would you want this ready for any specific moment or just to address
Next
the
week will be
issue?
good.
Okay,
Next week will be great, yeah.
okay,
Yeah, and if people ask us at KubeCon, hey, I heard you have GitHub app, how can I deploy it? We give
yeah,
them the blog post, right?
cool.
And we also have that example around Terraform with Flux operator, and we could I'll think about it. I mean, it's easy to create the secret from Terraform as well. Because running 3 commands is not something that people do if there is not on their, I don't know, home computer, right? People use Terraform to deploy all stuff, or
Yeah,
OpenTofu now.
yeah, cool. I will do
Yeah, so
this.
I'll yeah, we can probably add some configuration in the Terraform example. Yeah, so we have this right now. And it defaults to string empty. That means in Terraform is optional. So here we could have the 3 variables also as optional, with the app ID, install ID, and the
Private,
how is it called? The private key.
private key,
Yeah. And then in
and also
the
base URL is optional. Oh, no,
yeah, no. Like the example is for github.com.
okay.
Right. So we can have these other 3 keys, which are all optional, and then we need to write some kind of switch in Terraform where we check, oh, if app ID and is provided, then the secret will not have username, password, will map the 3 variables. And in the Helm release that Terraform creates for the Flux instance, we are going to set the provider to GitHub. That should, yeah, that I don't think is complicated. I don't know how to write a switch in Terraform. It has that.
Terraform switch case. The actions here are the blog post with the commands and these new features in the Terraform module you sent in Flux Operator, right?
Yeah, I would add a section for Terraform in the blog post, right?
Oh, to
With the
reference this Terraform module
Yeah.
that we're gonna
Yeah.
modify. Yeah.
Yeah, and give the example of a Terraform apply. Oh, you'll do Terraform apply -var GitHub app ID, GitHub
Wait, so
app.
you want the blog post
whatever.
with the two alternatives or just
Yeah.
Terraform?
Yeah.
Okay, so commands alternative and Terraform alternative. Okay.
Yeah. Commands are already there in the docs, right? It's just around putting them together. What we are
Right,
missing is the Terraform thing. But I think it has a lot of value to show people, right? You can do this from the CLI, but you can also do it declarative, because people that are running more than 5 clusters or whatever, they will not want to run 3 commands in a bash script.
And the main,
But
let's
it's
say the
fast.
main advantage here is because pets are that have that issue of being associated with an account, and you either have to create a bot account or
Yep.
yeah, the right way is either you creating a dedicated account to have a pet or create a GitHub app, which is much better.
Also rotating secrets, right? If you create a personal access token should expire, you should rotate the secret from time to time and so on, right? The whole idea of a GitHub app.
Same thing for private key.
Yeah, but the idea of a private app is that in the communication, if that's the main difference, right? You do the handshake and then all the calls use the ephemeral token. So if someone sniffs traffic, stalls the key from, I don't know, man in the middle or whatever, the token, that token will not be, right?
Okay.
I think that's the
Hmm.
advantage of using GitHub app.
Yeah.
Another
It actually
advantage,
eliminates this man in the middle attack, right? Because
it
if you
makes
steal
it
a token that lasts too long, that's too bad. But if you steal a token that lasts 1 hour, that's much less
it
bad.
reduces. Yeah, I think it's the same as with workload identity and everything, right? If someone manages to get in the middle and sniff your traffic for whatever reason, you are vulnerable, but the vulnerability window is way smaller than when you have these long-lived tokens that, generate a token for 1 month or 3 months or whatever. Then if someone takes that token for 3 months, they will be in there.
They have a lot of time
Exactly,
right?
a lot of time to do crazy things. While it's different from stealing an ephemeral token that expires it's 1 hour, right, for GitHub app.
I have to check exactly, but yeah. It's at
Anyway,
most 12.
It's less than months, right? So it's way better.
Yeah. So there's still the burden of rotating this private key like you would in the token, but it actually reduces this attack surface like we were
But
just saying.
I think the major advantage that we should present in the blog post is around access control, right? You don't need dedicated. I think we should preserve from the perspective of users. Like most users out there, they don't create this bot account because an extra account has cost. Someone has to manage it and so on. And what happens is like most of our
this account,
users,
like in the billing of your organization, there's a limit of users, and this user would count there, right?
Yeah. But usually what happens, what we've seen happens with all our users, they use their own personal access tokens, right? So the advantage that we should present in the blog post is like, instead of using a personal access token associated with a member of your organization and linking all that all those clusters to that identity. And when that person leaves the organization, all the Flux will lose access everywhere, right? Because if you bootstrap with your personal access token in an organization, then you leave the organization, automatically all those tokens become invalid, even if you run bootstrap with SSH. Because the SSH key is created using your personal access token. And when the token expires or you are no longer in the organization, automatically all the SSH keys, all the deploy keys are being invalidated, right? And all of a sudden you'll see like Flux will fail everywhere. So there is a lot of insensitive just from that perspective to use a GitHub app, which is not related to a particular employee, represents the identity of your organization, right? So I think that's how we should describe it, right?
Okay, so you don't want any mentions to the specifics of how the attack surface.
Yeah.
We just say it's more secure.
Yeah, we should say it's more secure, and the major advantage is this, right? And explain the fact that it's not tied to a human that can leave, can be angry and delete his token or whatever, right? It gets, there is also the thing around security, right? That person, if he stores its token somewhere and if he gets hacked, then that token can be used, right, for other things. And it's up to that person to secure his token. Like with the GitHub app, is an organizational concern. It's not tied to a human. Something around those lines.
Cool. Now I have just a question that because you mentioned SSH. So when we run Flux Bootstrap with but there's still like in the CLI Flux Bootstrap, you can specify GitHub somewhere. It's been a long time since I used it, but I remember that you can specify GitHub somewhere. So the CLI will prompt you for a path, right? For example. And then what it will do is what we said earlier, it will create a secret with username, something, and password with the token. And yeah, that will work. But then when you want to bootstrap with SSH, I don't remember right now if you also specify, like, you can like Flux Bootstrap with an SSH URL and still specify GitHub, and then the CLI will ask you, okay, what's your path? And in this case, the CLI will create a deploy key because it saw the URL, because in this case, what it will make it decide that it has to create a deploy key is the URL, right? The SSH, it will say, oh, this URL is SSH, so I need to create a deploy key with this GitHub path. No?
There is no URL. You never use the command, right?
No, I used years ago.
There is no URL. There is a special flag, token authentication, and only when you do -- token auth, only then we store the token on the cluster. By default, we use the token never leaves your computer. We use the token to generate an SSH key. We set the deploy key through the Kubernetes. We set the private key in the Flux system namespace as a secret, and the deploy key in GitHub.
Right. So if you don't specify this token flag, it's
yeah.
You
need to opt in into storing your personal access token on the server, because that's bad. If it's especially your personal access token and you don't have a dedicated user, yeah, most people shouldn't be doing that if it's not for demos, for the reasons we talked before, right?
I don't use Flux Bootstrap anymore. I use Flux Operator.
Yeah. Okay, we have some minutes left. Augie, you want to talk about that proposal? We are not Helm maintainers, so I don't know how can we help you with it.
So maybe we should stop the recording at this point.